There are times when I'm reading a book where I feel like I've stepped right through the pages of the book and into the world that I'm reading about. And if I'm lucky, I'll get to experience that feeling a couple more times in my life when a writer is so good at creating a world and an atmosphere surrounding that world that you just can't help but get lost in it and kind of just completely surrender yourself to the experience of being in that world. And in my eyes, this is kind of the highest achievement that an author can ever make. And so I thought I would take a little time today to talk to you about it, because I have experienced this very recently while reading, strangely enough, a memoir, Close to the Bone by Lisa Ray. I'm not finished reading this book yet, but I am savoring every letter of this book so much because Lisa Ray is incredible at creating a world and an atmosphere. Even though this is a non-fictional story, she is telling you the story of her life. She is so good at creating the world through her eyes for you to be able to experience everything that she's gone through and her life through her own eyes. And I feel like not many people are able to do that, or at least not many people that I've read books by have been able to do that. And I feel like it might also just be personal preference due to the kind of writing style that I like, because obviously everybody likes different writing styles, so different writing styles do different things for different people. But I can't say enough good things about this book. I think if I could give this a 5,000 star rating, I would. And I'm not even halfway through this book yet, but I'm loving it so much. And it kind of got me thinking about all of the times in my life that I have had this kind of connection with a book, and where I've been so enthralled by the book that I'm reading that I feel like I've kind of left Earth and gone into this book's universe, even though this one is technically set on Earth. It is set in places that I have never been to, so they are kind of foreign to me anyway. But upon going down this kind of rabbit hole, I think I'm going to put this book down, because if I just keep talking about this book, I'm going to be here for 50 years, and you don't want to see that, and I don't want to sit here for 50 years, so we're going to put this one aside for now. But I remember while I was thinking and reminiscing about this kind of feeling that I've had from reading books, I remember when I was a teenager or a preteen, reading The Hunger Games, and I can vividly feel that I had the exact same feelings about that trilogy. Maybe not so much the last one, but especially the first book in that trilogy. I had the same feeling while reading that book as I am having now reading Close to the Bone. And that kind of all-encompassing, all-consuming world feeling where you are so engrossed in this world that you can't wait. Anytime that you're not reading that book, you can't wait to get back to reading it, because you want to get back into that world, because you want to be there. Maybe that's escapism or something, but it's also just because these writers are so good at creating the worlds that they write about. And I also feel like that is probably why people like Sally Rooney and Elizabeth Gilbert's books are so beloved, because they are so good at creating these worlds where you can get completely lost in them and kind of forget about the real world that is waiting just outside the covers of the book, if you will. And to some extent, I feel like Virginia Woolf was a champion of this kind of atmospheric writing, as I'm calling it, because whenever you are reading a Virginia Woolf book, her writing demands that you be absolutely present with whichever character you're spending time with, because of her stream of consciousness style of writing. Whenever you spend time with any of her characters, you have to be absolutely present with them, because you are literally in their minds, living their life with them. Whether or not you can actually follow those people's trains of thoughts is a completely different conversation, one that we're not going to have right now, because that's a whole other question. But just the way that she writes and the way that you are basically living inside the characters' heads makes, I think, her books so much richer than they would have been if she had written them from a third person's perspective. They still would have been, I mean, she technically, I feel like she kind of writes from a first person and a third person perspective at the same time. But that's besides the point. She doesn't kind of write from a omniscient narrator kind of style who's just observing all of the goings on. You are sort of in the third person, but inside the characters' heads. It doesn't really make sense as I'm explaining this, and I'm kind of not doing a great job of explaining it. But to me it makes sense, and if you've ever read a Virginia Woolf book, you'll know what I'm talking about, and you will understand my difficulty in trying to describe it properly to you. I feel like I have so much more to say about this topic, but when you're in these writers' worlds, you are so completely engrossed in their worlds that the real world outside the covers of the book kind of ceases to exist. And if you can get to that feeling, and if you can get to that state of mind while reading a book, that is one of the best experiences you will ever have in your life while reading a book. And I just hope that everybody gets to experience this at least once in their life. And so we come to the part of the video where I'm going to recommend you some books, because I've made a little list. It's in front of me here, and I've made a list of some of the books that I've read where I've had this feeling of completely losing myself in the world of the book. I'm sure there are many others that I've read that I can't think of right now, but these are the ones that came to my mind off the top of my head. So I wanted to just do a quick rundown, and I would also love it if you have had an experience reading a book like this where you get completely lost in it. Please recommend the books to me as well, because I am also constantly looking for this feeling in books that I read. So I would love to take on any recommendations that you have, because I want to read books that make me feel this way for the rest of my life. I never want to read a book that doesn't make me feel this way ever again. I know there are going to be many that I will read that I don't feel this way about. But if I could, at least once a year, read a book that makes me feel this way, I would be so happy. So, with that said, first up on my list, obviously, is Close to the Bone by Lisa Ray, because I'm currently reading it and it was the inspiration for this video. So I have to shout it out. So here you go. This is the first one. Please, everybody go and pick up this book. Even if you don't know who Lisa Ray is and you don't care for celebrity memoirs, this is not really that much of a celebrity memoir, because I don't think she falls under the category of celebrity. But please read this book. It is not just a memoir, it is actually an incredibly well-written book, and I cannot wait for Lisa Ray to write more stuff and to publish more things, because I want to live in her world for the rest of my life, or for as long as I can. So there's that one. Then next up, or the next one that made me feel this way, was City of Girls by Elizabeth Gilbert. I read it last year and it was one of my 5-star reads. It was absolutely great. Also last year I read Villa America by Liza Klaussmann, or Liza, I think. I'm not going to say anything about it. 1920s French Riviera kind of setting, people from real history and fictional stories about them. I know I said I'm not going to say anything about it, but I can't help myself. Then we come to Out of Love by Hazel Hayes. I've mentioned this one a couple of times before, and I've read it completely twice, and I've reread sections of it many more times than that. But I want to reread it again. Then we have Sweetbitter by Stephanie Danler, set in a restaurant in a big city. I'm not sure whether it's supposed to be New York City. I don't think it's actually mentioned. Maybe it is mentioned, but I think it's supposed to be New York City, set in a big city in a very busy restaurant, and you follow the lives of the people working there. I, Mona Lisa by Natasha Solomons tells a fictional biography of the painting of Mona Lisa from the painting's perspective. And then I can't say enough good things about Carlos Ruiz Zàfon. If you can get your hands on any of his books, I have read Prince of Mist, City... what's it called? Why do I feel like it's also called City of Mist? And then The Labyrinth of Spirits. But I am so eager to get my hands on more of his works because he is the king of atmospheric writing. If Virginia Woolf is the queen, then Carlos Ruiz Zàfon is the king of atmospheric writing. So there you have your monarchs. Go forth and read all of them. Obviously, I can't not talk about Virginia Woolf. I haven't read that many works by her. I've read actually more non-fiction by her than I've read fiction, but the fiction that I have read was fabulous, and I have a copy of Orlando on my bookshelf actually that I'm going to get around to reading sometime this year, and I can't wait to be back in Ms. Woolf's writing world. So, with that said, I'm going to stop yammering on about this topic. I hope it has made you think a little bit about what writers bring you joy and what writers make you feel like you're completely lost in their worlds, and which books. And please, again, as I said earlier, recommend me books that made you feel this way, because I am always on the lookout for more books. I'm always looking for more books. Always. That is the nature of being a bibliophile. It means that you're just always wanting more books. So, I hope that you enjoyed watching this video. I know it's a little bit different from stuff I usually do, but I felt inclined to make it. So I hope you enjoyed it. I will see you all again next week with another video. Cheers!